Last week I went over some of the dangers that you might encounter when taking your ferret outdoors. So does that mean keeping your ferret solely indoors keeps them 100% safe? Today I wanted to talk about some of the dangers your ferret may encounter inside your home. We've recently had an influx of people asking whether or not free roaming their ferrets would be safe. Honestly, there are dangers no matter how you keep your ferrets. Let's first talk about cages. You may be thinking, well, if I just keep them in their cage all the time, they'll be 100% safe all the time, right? Not necessarily. Unless you keep them in an all-metal cage with absolutely nothing inside, which we don't recommend, there are still dangers inside a cage. Some people opt not to keep toys inside the cages to eliminate something else that they could chew up and then either choke on or get a blockage from. Blockages are one of the most common emergencies when it comes to ferrets. At the very least, they should have some kind of comfy bedding to sleep on. That very bedding can become dangerous. Some ferrets like to chew on things, even something as simple as a fleece blanket. This can easily cause a blockage. Another issue that can happen is getting tangled in a hammock or even just their bedding. A vet tech at one of the veterinary clinics that we went to had a ferret who got tangled in their bedding when he was gone for work. When he got home, he was able to untangle the ferret in the bedding. However, it had been so long that they lost blood circulation in the toe and the toe had to be amputated. So 100% cage life can still be dangerous and is not a way that you should make your ferret live. We highly recommend free roaming your ferret for at least 6 hours a day. While it is possible to free roam a ferret 24/7, the dangers they may run into does increase. For us, we normally free roam from around 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., but it does vary depending on what time we wake up and what time we go to bed. Our personal rule of thumb is if we, both my husband and myself, are both gone or we're both sleeping, they have to be in their cage for safety. On the 1 or 2 days a week that we are both gone for a vast majority of the day, we go by the 6 hours a day rule. So they'll be out for 3 hours in the morning and 3 hours in the evening. Honestly, that's the only time our ferrets are really active anyways. Usually they get up in the morning, play for a bunch of hours, and then they fall asleep for most of the day until they wake up in the evening to play again. As for dangers with free roaming, it's really going to depend on your household. The first thing I want to cover is other pets. While we do often show our ferrets interacting with our dogs and cat, it's not something I easily recommend to others. Our dogs are very well trained around small animals, and I can read their behavior very well. This isn't something I learned overnight, and it isn't something that a lot of people really understand and know. Anytime your ferret interacts with another animal outside their own species, there is always... Loki, you want to demonstrate the other species? He's just checking on Hagrid. Oh my goodness. Okay. So this was not scripted at all, as you can't really script animals. Well, hi guys. So again, anytime they're around other species, there is always going to be a risk. And we know that. While our dogs have been interacting with our ferrets for over 6 years, something could still happen. Household plants can also cause a danger if they're chewed on. Something as common as aloe vera or even ivy are toxic to ferrets and other animals. Even plants that are high up can drop petals or leaves that the ferrets can get to and chew on. So it's important to really make sure they're somewhere safe. Personally for us, we just don't have any plants in the house that are toxic to any of our pets. The next thing I want to cover is soaps, detergents, and other household cleaners. While we mostly use a vinegar water mixture for most of our cleaning, we do have other things like Tide Pods and dish soap. It's important to keep these things locked away in places they can't get to. Other dangers are like cosmetics, medicines, and other personal care items like toothpaste and shampoo and lotions. Again, it's super important to keep these in places your ferrets can't get to. It's important that you're extra careful where you're locking these forbidden items up because these guys are very clever and very inquisitive. Another thing is accidents, which does cover a very wide variety of things. I have read many times where owners have accidentally stepped on their ferrets. Now, sometimes it can be not so severe where they just recover at home, and sometimes it can be pretty bad where it leads to internal bleeding and their death, unfortunately. It's important to practice shuffling your feet if you're going to have free roam ferrets, because it can easily be hard to remember, okay, we're not shuffling because the ferrets are not out. Okay, now we're shuffling because the ferrets are out. So it's kind of a good rule of thumb to make sure you're just practicing shuffling your feet all the time. I'm always saying out loud during the day, hey, don't forget the ferrets are out, like over and over, so both I remember and my husband remember that they are out. If they're out like every day, it can be easily forgotten that they're there, especially because they do fall asleep for a very large portion of the day, meaning you might forget they're there and then one wakes up and you can easily step on them. While my habit of saying, hey, don't forget the ferrets are out is probably very annoying, it keeps both of us just constantly remembering that, hey, yeah, they're out somewhere. Another thing to remember is recliners can be very dangerous to ferrets. A lot of ferrets do get crushed when they go hiding inside or underneath a recliner. Another is ferrets getting into a filled bathtub or a toilet and drowning, or accidentally put into a washer or dryer or dishwasher. Anytime we do laundry or even just take the trash out, we do what I call is a head count. Even if the ferrets are in their cage, I still just double and triple check and do a head count of making sure all the ferrets are there and not somewhere they can get killed. Honestly, I even include our new kitten Loki, so we always do a head count of ferrets in our cat just to be triple sure that no accidents are going to happen. It would be super easy for a ferret to bury itself in like a pile of laundry and then you just pick it all up and throw it in the washer. So again, do your head counts. Electrical cords can of course be a concern. A lot of ferrets aren't chewers, so a lot of the times they're not going to mess with cords, but to be safe, it's best to either hide the cord so they can't get to it or get like PVC or those other cord protectors that you can put around the cords in case they decide to chew on them. Different foods can also be a danger. These guys can learn to climb, so if they can get up on a coffee table or your kitchen table or a counter, they can possibly get into some kinds of food. They tend to like sweet things like cereal, peanut butter, or candies, which all are very not good for them. They're obligate carnivores and really should only be eating meat. But I've seen where these guys have ran off with a whole pack of candy they found to stash to chew on later. So you want to make sure all foods are put up where they can't get to them. Now, a lot of the risks I just talked about are going to be ones that if you let your ferret free roam a large portion of your house. I know some people let them free roam a specific room. There are still dangers that can still be present even if you have them in a space designated as their own. Blockages are still a concern outside of the cage, especially because they're going to have access to more items. So if you even have a specific room that's designated for your ferrets, you want to be careful what you have in there. Different toys like rubber toys and things like that where they can get pieces off of, they can easily choke on or even just get a blockage from. I know a lot of the times when people free roam them in the rooms, usually the room's filled to the brim with all kinds of toys and different playthings, which again, the more things that are in there, the more chances they can chew something up and get a blockage. And the last danger, which can even happen when they have their own specific room, is getting lost inside the house or even outside. Ferrets are very inquisitive and like to explore everywhere. I've seen where ferrets find an opening in a wall somewhere and get lost inside the walls, or find a floor furnace vent that they can push open and then go exploring in the vents. They can get stuck behind refrigerators, stoves, washers and dryers and other appliances. And sometimes, whether they free roam the whole house or have a designated space, I've seen lots and lots of ferrets find a way outside and get lost. This is something that even happened to us with our first ferret, Dobby, although we did find him a few days later. Now, this list far from covers every possible danger a ferret may encounter in a home, but does cover a large portion of them. Letting your ferrets free roam can be scary, but it is important for their overall well-being. They are not meant to be cage animals. If you know the dangers ahead of time and are diligent about ferret proofing, it can easily be done safely. The important thing is you don't ever want to ferret proof once. You're always wanting to double check things that you maybe thought were ferret proof before, because usually they can find a way around things. Hopefully this video was helpful for those asking about free roaming their ferrets and making sure it's safe for them. Again, these guys are much happier when they have more room to explore. Bye! You're not amused. He's not amused.